Drake is now suing Universal, and we are now in federal court. This case is just getting crazier and crazier. Break-in attempts, people are shooting at Drake and his family. Drake just has personal knowledge of how Universal does its deals. I'm focusing on what's not here, which are the claims against the progression of this story and case. We started with a verified petition that Drake had filed at the state court level in New York, and this thing was not like an official complaint, right? It is something that you get to file in New York to say, I am conducting discovery, meaning I'm trying to get evidence. And what Drake was trying to get evidence for was to prove that Universal had worked in cahoots with Spotify to inflate Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us song, in that the song was not as popular as we all thought. And in fact, it was like a fabricated marketing campaign of success. And so then two updates happened. One, Drake voluntarily withdrew that petition. It's like, that's interesting. Why? Well, then we get hit right after that with an actual lawsuit, which was filed in federal court. And it is not for what you think. Hey guys, I'm a music attorney. I specialize in all things business law, intellectual property, and I'm a musician myself, so that's why I have a music business channel. I've been doing this for 10 years, and this case is just getting crazier and crazier. Drake is now suing Universal only, didn't actually name Spotify, and we are now in federal court in New York. So here's the thing. This is how the complaint starts. In the middle of the night, on May 7, 2024, an armed group of assailants drove up to the Toronto house in which Drake and his family resided. Drake was inside. The car stopped in front of the residence. Someone yelled, "Fuck Drake," and at least one gunman began to open fire. One bullet went through the security gate and hit Drake's front door. Another bullet struck and wounded a security guard who was also one of Drake's friends. The car drove away. Drake and the others in the house summoned help for the security guard and did everything possible to keep him alive. During the nearly 30 minutes it took for the ambulance to arrive, Drake and others labored to keep the man alive by applying pressure to the gunshot wound with towels. Blood was everywhere. So the beginning of this complaint, which is in regards to how Universal has allegedly defamed Drake, starts with this extremely dramatic narrative. So basically, there were break-in attempts, people are shooting at Drake and his family, and then the complaint goes in the 2 decades leading up to this event. Although Drake was consistently in the public eye, nothing remotely like this had ever happened before. These events are not coincidental. They immediately followed and were proximately caused by Universal's actions leading up to May 4th, 2024. Okay, so my law firm represents a whole bunch of creatives, right? Not just musicians, but like creators of all types. And defamation is one of those things that comes up because if you're in the public eye, you're going to be on social media, and then something happens, and then you talk about that something, and then someone's like, you talked about me and you named me, and defamation. So we hear words like defamation, slander. You say stuff, right, that is communicated to a third party. It doesn't have to actually be like a public post, a press release. It can actually be a publication of something that someone said, even in a private message, is a publication to a third party. That is not true. That is the most important thing, because I have clients who are like, Krystle, I want to talk about, this situation. And I go, well, understands that you discussing this online can elicit someone to sue you. It's a free country. Anyone can sue you. But the best defense to a defamation claim is, well, the truth. All right, so in the complaint, the song Not Like Us, written and performed by Kendrick Lamar, the recording was intended to convey the specific, unmistakable, and false factual allegation that Drake is a criminal, pedophile, and to suggest that the public should resort to vigilante justice in response. Notwithstanding its knowledge that the allegations are fabricated, starting in May of 2024, Universal waged an unrelenting campaign to spread recording, images, videos, hereafter the defamatory material as widely as possible, right? So this is where we get into the whole, what's the allegations? There's like tens of millions of streams that were fabricated by Universal. Universal's in cahoots with Spotify. The piece of Drake's original petition, I think Drake just has personal knowledge of how Universal does its deals. I believe that Drake is like spilling the tea on Universal and being like, well, I know they did this because they did it for me. I mean, I imagine that's how he knows how Universal does this stuff. And so he goes, well, I think now they're doing this for Kendrick Lamar. And then guys, here's my biggest piece here, which is you have Drake suing Universal for defamation. Drake, why aren't you suing Kendrick Lamar? If these statements were so detrimental and you are saying that the direct result of the statements that were made was that then these injuries, these threats, these assaults resulted. Now I get the argument. You go, well, Universal fanned the flame. Universal went the extra mile and basically is like secondarily liable for what Kendrick said. But why aren't you suing Kendrick? Now, I mean, I think I know why. I can assume why. But it's like if you're going to go this route anyway, to the extent that you care about like public opinion, it's not necessarily the best look if you are like dealing with someone saying stuff about you in this kind of beef by then suing them. I mean, the other consideration here is that obviously Universal has deep pockets, right? To the extent you can get settlement or you can get a judgment. I mean, cool. But equally, Kendrick Lamar, deep pockets. But I mean, to be fair, Drake took his shots too against Kendrick Lamar. I guess I'm just curious whether this is you just don't want to poke the bear again. I don't know if this is the right analogy, but you have a boyfriend cheats on you. And instead of getting mad at your boyfriend, you get mad at the other chick. So, I don't know. For those of you who have been following this a lot more closely, because I usually just don't get involved in like beef stuff, and I try to focus on the law and lawsuits. Maybe you have more context. Leave a comment down below. Okay, so going more through the complaints. Universal and Drake have a long partnership. Okay, we know that. In fact, as far as all their great marketing tactics, I'm sure it helped you out a little bit as well. Universal has licensed and published rights over Kendrick Lamar's music, and, I think part of the allegation is that the last deal that Universal did with Kendrick in the hundreds of millions of dollars, they're coming up on the time to maybe redo a deal, and so we want to go the extra mile for Kendrick, so therefore the diss track, Not Like Us, not real, popularity was all boosted by the label. Okay, so again, the tattling method here of like, Kendrick did the thing, but Universal published it. Pursuant to the actual release, it says the exclusive license to the song is Interscope, which is a division of Universal. Within the first minute of the song, we hear Drake has a predilection for underage women, quote, say Drake, I hear you like 'em young, end quote. You better not ever go to cell block 1. The recording continues to say that any woman who falls in love with Drake should be careful to, quote, hide her little sister from him. Okay, it goes on. Universal published through these different places, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. The images feature aerial view of Drake's Toronto home, including identifying information regarding the location of the home, and it covers in the icons used by law enforcement and public safety applications like Citizen to identify child sex offenders and their residences of public registries. Okay, so going back to the law, is what was said in the song true or was it false? So Drake in the complaint states the defamatory material is false. The allegations against Drake are unequivocally false. Drake has never been charged with, indicted for, or convicted of any charges of sexual violence or assault, including but not limited to sexual violence against a minor, nor has Drake ever engaged in an inappropriate, romantic, or sexual behavior with a minor. Okay, so the complaint goes on not just to talk about the song itself, but also the video. Kendrick Lamar is depicted in front of shipping containers with air conditioning units inside. These images are associated with sex trafficking. There we go. The video also includes allusions of Drake's OVO brand, which is represented by an owl in combination with the lyrics wop 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 dot fuck 'em up. The video shows Lamar beating an owl-shaped piñata with a bat. During the scene, a caption appears at the bottom of the video that states, disclaimer, no OVOs were harmed during the making of this video. So the complaint just goes, right, so again, Kendrick Lamar is the one that said the things that caused all the bad outcomes, but Universal spread the defamatory material, deceived consumers. Because I go back to, remember, this whole thing started by just saying, well, we think Universal has unfairly botted, boosted, inflated the success of the song. And now it's a completely different approach. It's you, Universal, are the reason. I mean, it doesn't say you're the reason Kendrick Lamar wrote this song, but you're the reason that I was harmed by the song. Essentially, taking Drake's side for 2 seconds and being like, I mean, what's your expectation here, right? You're saying censorship. You're saying that if there was something in here that may have been harmful to, a person of some kind, that a label should basically step in, no can do, I'm not releasing this, right? Just in the music distributor front, you guys are constantly reaching out because you go, music distributor refused to release my song because they said, well, it's too political, it's too religious, it is offensive, there's hate speech. Like there's something where a distributor will say, I'm not going to release this because hey, I'm like a music distributor. I really don't want to get sued for you little artist using my platform. And so then we go, okay, well, what do you think about that? But then on the flip side, if someone is truly releasing something that is like hate speech, that's talking about like your personal address and putting you in harm's way, I think that's fair. I think that there is a good argument for that. I just go, I'm focusing on what's not here, which are the claims against Kendrick Lamar directly. Okay. But the inflated plays thing, it does actually exist in here. In the beginning of the lawsuit, it's like factual background, what's our evidence, all the good stuff. And then it gets into counts. So it's what the actual counts are. So we have count 1, defamation per se. So here are the elements and how we apply the facts to the count. And so we go, Universal published a statement, right? Looking for the word, there it is, false. A statement that was false. Okay. And it could have reasonably foreseen that these statements, right, could be no good for Drake. Universal intended to make the false statements and publicly promoted it and did all the things. The statements UMG published about Drake are reasonably understood to state and imply that he, and it goes on, pedophilia, sexual crimes. These statements, in fact, are false. Okay, so they go through that. So that's count 1. Count 2, harassing in the second degree. Universal engaged in a course of conduct and repeatedly committed acts which alarm and seriously annoy plaintiff. UMG published, promoted, and profited from a coordinated campaign to smear, threaten, discredit plaintiff despite plaintiff's protests. Threats of violence, intentional motive of financial gain. Okay, and then lastly, this is the callback to, where we all started on this, right? So lastly, pursuant to local New York law, defendant engaged in deceptive acts and practices in the conduct of business by covertly financially incentivizing third parties to play, stream, and promote the song, not like us, and then by making materially false and misleading representations of the song's popularity to consumers. So there we go, right? So they go through a little discussion about it, and then the prayer for relief. So just so you know, at the very end of the complaint, this is where we throw in, we go, so court, this is what we want you to do. We want, usually it's like an injunction, but in this case we want, well, and actually here, look, I'll give Drake a moment, right? So he goes, we want nominal damages. All right, well, normally it goes, we want millions of dollars. Sue them for the world. So we want nominal damages. We want compensatory damages. We want our consequential damages. We want our attorney's fees. We want punitive damages because bad faith, right? This was so egregious. We're entitled to like an amount above and beyond to punish them and make them an example to the rest of the world. We want declaratory relief stating that the statements published and promoted were false. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do because this is a 91-page complaint, is that if you guys want me to literally go through this in my long-winded, spirited fashion, drop me a comment down below. If I get enough comments saying that you want me to actually go through the entire complaint, I will. I'm sure you guys are going wild already in the comments. So I'll see you on the next one. I'm top music attorney, Miss Krystle.